Okay, so let's talk about the history of life on Earth. We'll for sure have a quiz tomorrow. Let's see. What else could we mention? How about the fact that fungi and plants, and to some degree animals, not so much, but I guess animals a little bit, colonized the land around 0.5 billion years ago. So 500 million years ago, I would say. That's a good rough estimate. Of course, today I would say that if we're looking at animals, both the arthropods and animals are prominent on the land.
Mr. Fields?
No questions. Yeah, sure.
I know you just wrote down that fungi, the plants and animals colonized the land around 0.5 billion years ago. Is that the same as 470 million years ago?
It's close enough to it. Because it's all, like, basically extraordinarily relative. I mean, there's another point. I'm looking at some of the notes that I wrote a couple years ago. And there's another note that I just am going to skip, but I wrote down that plants and fungi likely colonized land together about 420 million years ago. So, like, it's all extremely roundabout. And I think it's just, like, as I was writing it and as I'm thinking about it, it's all, like, this different evidence. I have seen, like, 600 million years. I mean, so I just kind of split it down the middle, about 500 million years ago. If I wrote that the other day.
I was
What?
just making sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or
Okay.
500 million.
Okay, yeah, I got you. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as arthropods, do you remember why I would put arthropods in the category as like a leading animal, like a phyla? What is their major class in the arthropod phyla? It's got class Arachnida in it for sure. Have y'all studied your phylums yet a lot? Okay. It's got the insects in it. Class Insecta is a class in the phylum Arthropod, or Arthropoda. So I think it would make sense that these would be the leaders, because you know insects are like obviously a very fair amount of diversity. I think the other day we had talked about Pangea, right? And what was Pangea, just as a reminder? And what type of speciation would that allow for? Sympatric or allopatric? Right, because you're going to create like this new distribution of like areas. Okay. We all know what extinction is, right? For someone to go away, for a creature to have died off. Scientists believe, though, that the rate today is about 100 times to maybe even 1,000 times faster than normal. Now, what would that mean? Put that into context. Than what is natural, right? Now, then you're like, well, it's because of oil, right? Like that would be probably the blame game. But I actually have read more and more where the Earth like goes through these cycles of like steadiness and then like unique extinction rates in unique climates. And so I would say that we're just like in the midst of a unique pattern, and that's about it. So I think that's fine. Let's see. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could put the blame on a lot of different things. You could say it's deforestation. You could say it's oil. You could put it, but I would say that the planet just goes through these points in time where you're excessively heavy in creatures, and there's going to be mass kill off. So it's, you know how like we talked about natural selection with the species, where there's overproduction, and then you gotta have survival of the fittest. Some people have to die. That idea that natural selection does on a species, I think natural selection in a way works on all of our species on this earthly population, which is not correct because population means that you're one and the same species. But for a fact, do you see what I'm saying? I think that there's just too many creatures, and that the Earth is going through a pruning phase, and that it's gone through these phases before. But, well. We talked a little bit about this with the Sam Ryan concert the other day that we were at. It's the first concert I've ever been to. The homeotic genes. But, however, homeotic is not what he called them necessarily. What did he call them? Called them Hox genes. You can't really see that, can you? What did the Hox genes do? Okay, so these genes determine placement of limbs. They're responsible for the body plane. And by that, the simple fact that you're going to have an arm here or a leg here, like the actual, like, just general body plane, is created by Hox genes. As you can understand, these would be one of the first turned on in embryogenesis. Remember how he said that there was like a heart after so many weeks of a baby being made, right? Y'all remember him talking about that? And he was going through all these like little fun facts about little babies. Well, like for there to be a heart or a brain, or like then there's, you know, the concept of a limb, like that has to exist because a gene told the body like where is there going to be an arm at. Does that make sense? So the Hox genes would be responsible for that. One of the first ones turned on because, of course, this is what is determining where things are going to be on the body. Cool? I think it's interesting stuff. This was also the type of genes that you can manipulate. I think he showed you a couple pictures of them being manipulated. Do you remember what one was? The fly, right? What did he do? He took like they transplanted or they moved around some Hox genes, and they got an eye to be coded for like on an antenna maybe. I know there's an antenna coming out of the eye socket. I don't know if you guys have seen that picture before. It's kind of an interesting picture. I might have it. I'll look for it. But you see an antenna that's coming out of the eye socket, which I've always found interesting. There's no eyeball. There's just an antenna coming out. Or coding for an eye randomly on the arm, right? And what did he even say about that? That it was light sensitive too, which I thought was really cool. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna like send signal like a normal eye does back to the brain, because it's not connected by an optic nerve. But at least it acts like an eye. In fact, I don't think he said this part, but it actually move around like an eye. There's control, just like an eye. So I think that would be cool one day to have little Mr. Fields with eyes everywhere, or at least you know, put eyes wherever you want to, based on development. Now, of course, could you do that to your body now? Could you code for an eye in your arm now? No, this has got to be something that was with you from the embryo state. So you've got to mess with the Hox genes, which means you'd have to get the embryo, the zygote, you'd have to reprogram it, which right now stands extraordinarily illegal and way unethical. So I don't think we should do that, but we do it with flies at least. Cool? Fruit flies are really nasty. I mean, we're really advanced. So I think that's a good thing. Yeah, these homeotic genes. I think that's fun. Really, with chapter 26, I think it's really mostly for you to know your dates. And I mean dates like as in time periods, not individual people. Dates. Bad jokes. What? Do you see that chart in the book? Yeah. I like that chart. It, like I would know like by that, you know, they use the circle chart. Is that what you're referring to? There's the circle one where they kind of go through the different time periods, and then there's the chart that show like the different eras and periods of this planet. That one I wouldn't know everything about it, but I would kind of know like the major eras, but not necessarily the periods of time. in relative like time frames, like when did it move on land, when was there oxygen accumulation, that kind of stuff.
The circle chart is the one that's like kind of looks like a clock. And
Yes, and they're going like, I believe it's clockwise, I think. And as you go clockwise, you're like moving like each time they move a clockwise unit or whatever, if you will, you're getting a new massive period of time. It's really cool. That's like the little picture that's like throughout the entire chapter.
Yeah.
I would say if you focused on just like what is going on at each of those points, you got it made. And if you can explain like why it is, like oxygen accumulation, cyanobacteria, not just as oxygen accumulation, but why is it accumulating? Who's putting it there? Now let me kind of outline where we're going, so you can write this down. In chapter 27, we're going to talk about all of your prokaryotes, which include two domains. What are the two domains? Okay, I'll get this one. It's the archaea and the bacteria, or also called the eubacteria. Then in chapter 28, do you know what it is? It's the protist. On this chapter 28, we're going to actually be doing very little. So we're not going to be like responsible for lots of stuff. And then there's chapter 29 and 30, which we're actually not doing at all right now, because they're all about plants. So I write this down only to put an X through it, because we're not going to really worry about it. Oh, you can't see. My bad. And then there's chapter 31. Do you know what 31's about? Okay. It's about fungi. But I would say your responsibility with a fungus needs to come from my Cliff Notes. Y'all know what my Cliff Notes are, right? On the website that no one ever goes to? That one. Good. We had a phylum on this once before, so you've seen this information. That's great. Then there's chapter 32. There's chapter 33. And then there's also chapter 34, to be honest with you. Chapter 32 is an intro to animal development. I'm not sure if we did this during the phylums this year. I don't think we did, honestly. I know I have often in the years past. This actually goes over like what happens to go from a 4-cell state to an 8-cell state. Remember how he was talking about the hollow ball of cells? Sam Ryan did at the genetics concert the other day. That thing. Then chapter 33 is all about your invertebrates. Can someone give me an example of a phylum that is an invertebrate phylum? Nope. What? Mollusca, good one. Can someone give me another one? Arthropoda, probably the most like common one. Give me another one. What? Porifera, good. Another one. Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Rotifera, Nemertea, Nematoda. Y'all remember these? Echinodermata. Because in like about 10 days you gotta know them. Right? And then in 34 is the vertebrates. Can someone give me an example of a phylum that's in the vertebrate group? And that's about the only one, the Chordates, the Chordata. Yeah? Can someone give me a couple classes in the vertebrate kingdom, the Chordata phyla, if you will? Okay, mammals, good. And the class maybe? Reptile, amphibians, chondrichthyans, actinopterygi, actinoestia. Have you guys studied this at all? Okay, well, we'll start off with simple. We'll go to prokaryotes, at least, right? Now, what's a prokaryote? This is chapter 27. This is all about prokaryotes. Can someone raise their hand and tell me what a prokaryote is? Please, guys, don't fight for this one. No one can someone raise their hand just to show me that you can do that, at least? Yes, at least. What's the answer to the question? No nucleus. Okay, so a prokaryote is for sure going to be lacking a nucleus. How about an ER? Do they at least have ER, the endoplasmic reticulum? They have that, right? Nope. Do they have, I don't know, mitochondria, lysosome, peroxisome? No membrane-bound organelles. Now, what is one organelle that's not membrane bound that these guys do have? Which to me is the most important one, because what do ribosomes make? Is that transcription or translation? I'm sorry, what? In translation, they make what? And how many structures are there for proteins? So up to 4 structures, but there certainly 3, right? And what do you read to do translation? You read mRNA, right? And what do you use to bring the amino acids over? tRNA. What does the T stand for? And what do they bring over? They have an anticodon on them that match up with the codon on the RNA. They bring over amino acids. That's correct. How many amino acids are there? How do we group them up? What? I'm saying, like, how do we like group up amino acids? Like, what are the categories? Can someone give me a category of an amino acid? Like, there's positive amino acids, there's negative ones, there's ones that are polar, there's ones that contain cysteine, there's ones that are nonpolar, right? Well, if I had if this was right here, if this top was a nonpolar amino acid, would it want to be next to the polar water molecule, my scissors, or next to the other nonpolar amino acid? Yep, so they hang out together. Make sense? What if the scissors was positive and this was negative? Would they go together? So they went together. So amino acids are the same thing, which of course are assembled. What's the bond between an amino acid, just to remind ourselves? That's between DNA. Hydrogen is what connects the 2 bases together in DNA and water molecules. Those are in the tertiary structure that are connecting the cysteine groups. Ooh. They are a covalent bond, but to give me their specific name, it's all covalent, it's all biology. Peptide bonds, very good. Yeah. Peptide, polypeptide. Maybe a quiz on 5 tomorrow isn't such a bad idea after all. Do you want to do that? It doesn't upset you that you don't remember everything about it? Really? Kind of hurt. Maybe just a little quiz on 5 tomorrow. A little quiz never hurt anybody, Joseph. Okay, so a little quiz, Joseph says, on chapter 5 never hurt anyone, so we'll quiz on 5 tomorrow. Good?
We just have a test on 5 tomorrow.
We might as well have a test on it, Joseph says. We'll have a quiz on 5. Maybe just a little bit of something to help us remind each other what it means to. How about the bonus for the chapter 5 quiz is a chapter 26 question? That's at least better, right? Than me pulling out random music questions that we might not get right. Okay, we'll have 2 bonuses: a chapter 26 bonus and a music bonus tomorrow.
Can your bonus be about electronic music?
No, not about electronic music. Now, as far as prokaryotes, I think we want to understand that there's 2 domains that are both prokaryotic. Well, one domain is going to be, of course, the bacteria, right? And the other domain is going to be the what? The archaeobacteria. Now, we were just messing with E. coli, so please wash your hands, 1. And 2, which domain would that be in? Bacteria or archaeobacteria? Yeah. The domain bacteria is actually for what I would call your normal bacteria. And by normal, I mean like the type of bacteria you'd find on your face, kitchen sink, burrito, wherever it might be that you encounter these guys. That's normal. Archaeobacteria, these are called the extremophiles because they live in the extreme environments. And by extreme environments, I don't mean like the toilet. Okay? Even though that is a fairly extreme environment to live in, I guess. That's a pretty good joke. I'll remember that one for later. But I would say like in a volcano, right? That would be like an extreme place, or very, very salty water. Cool? And just to remind ourselves, a pretty logical question. Are these, can I view these by my eyes? No, there's no way, because these are way too small of a cell. Okay. And when did these first evolve? Sure. Right, approximately 3.5 billion years ago. And who was their ancestor? Kind of a trick question here. Really not one. If I wanted to trace their existence back, it would be the prototype of cell, which would be the protobiont. Yes. Absolutely. Cool. They have unique shapes. Like the rod-shaped ones. Rods. Bacilli. Or spirals, the spiral shapes. Or spherical shapes. Are they multi or unicellular? Unicellular. There are some that are multicellular, but I can never remember these. I don't even remember learning about these. So I just remember them all as being unicellular, and I go about my business. What does cellular mean? 5 or more cells, Joseph says. Very good. No. Only one cell. If you think about it, they live independently. Right? This would be like living on your own, no friends. That's basically how my life used to be. All I had was my sandwiches and my druid on WoW, and that was about it. What?
That's not so bad.
It wasn't. No, I was happy. My little sandwich, my little chips from the market, the ramen noodles that I had to go buy. Those were the days. So, anyway, only one cell, live independently. Cool? Thank you. Have a good day. The bell's about to ring, so